Hey, I'm Nico, and here are 30 useless facts about the Nintendo DS. There was a trademark that Nintendo registered in 2004 for the name of City Boy. It is believed that this was the original name that was going to be used for the console to keep the Game Boy brand alive. In the end, this name was never used. The DS in Nintendo DS stands for Dual Screen, which makes a lot of sense considering the DS has, well, two screens. The thing is, Nintendo actually claimed that DS means Developer's System because it was meant to make life easy for every single game developer that wanted to create games for it. The codename for this console was the Nintendo Nitro, which actually sounds pretty cool. Some of the DS cartridges have NTR written on the board itself, which is a reference to that old name. E3 2004 was the place where the Nintendo DS was revealed and shown for the very first time, and as you can see, it looks quite different from the final design. I wish I could put my hands on one of these original ones. I actually wonder if they do exist in the wild though. Some photos of the original FCC filing for the Nintendo DS reveal a similar look to the one Reggie introduced, but it's still a bit different. How many revisions did this thing receive before being shipped to consumers? This is so cool! The system was designed to be very durable, so during the development of the DS, every single prototype created needed to withstand 10 5-feet drops onto concrete without a loss of function. Yo, that's pretty intense. The Nintendo DS was not meant to be a successor to the Game Boy, but more of a third pillar in Nintendo's console lineup. It was meant to complement the Game Boy and the GameCube. Eventually, the fact that it was backward compatible with Game Boy Advance games made the Game Boy line a bit irrelevant, and so the DS eventually became the successor. Typically, Nintendo consoles always launch in Japan first, but for the Nintendo DS, things were a bit different, because it actually launched in North America a whole month before reaching Japan. Nintendo planned to sell about 1 million Nintendo DS's units at launch, but they got well over 3 million pre-orders taken in North America and Japan. This forced Nintendo to actually get another factory in order to ramp up production. One of the coolest features about the Nintendo DS was Download Play, which made it possible for users to play multiplayer games, even if only one player had a cartridge. As long as players stayed close enough, this would work quite well. I remember playing Mario Kart DS during a school trip on a bus with other students, even though I didn't even own Mario Kart DS at the time. The Nintendo DS was the first Nintendo console that included Wi-Fi support and that could connect to the internet that way. Back then, not everyone had Wi-Fi at home, so Nintendo sold an accessory, the Nintendo Wi-Fi USB connector, which, once plugged into your PC, would allow other Nintendo products to connect online. I used to have one of those. Good times. Unless your home PC had Windows Vista, because the USB stick would only work with Windows XP for a very long time. After receiving a lot of backlash and criticism, Nintendo ended up releasing drivers to make it compatible with Windows Vista as well. If it's your birthday and you launch PictoChat, as soon as you join a room, the Nintendo DS will wish you a happy birthday. Oh, thank you so much! The Nintendo DS has had many revisions. First, there was the DS Lite, a slimmer version, then the DSi, which featured hardware improvements as well as new features including a digital store. Finally, the DSi XL was a larger version of the DSi. If you record a sound in the Nintendo DSi sound application and hover the cursor over it for a few seconds, the soundbite will be remixed into a version of the Super Mario Bros. Theme. A man by the name of Neil Mueller and his friends went on an expedition to the top of Mount Everest. They brought a bunch of electronic devices with them to see which one would still work at the end of the expedition, and guess what? A Nintendo DS is what actually survived the longest during that expedition. epic. Browsing the internet with the Nintendo DS was actually possible, but it was a bit difficult to do so. You actually needed to buy a physical cartridge of the web browser Opera, which also included a memory expansion pack that you would insert into the GBA slot. DSi users had it way easier, as an internet browser could be downloaded from the Nintendo DSi shop for free. Back in July 2010, there was a report that the Nintendo DS was actually used to help out Isabelle Wormster, a kid that had amblyopia, also referred to as lazy eye. She went from not seeing that well to having a 20/30 vision in a year by playing the Nintendo DS for 1 hour per day. Man, I always knew video games were helpful. You should play them more. In the instruction booklet for the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection, there is the WEP key used on the screenshots, and it is displaying 8675309, which is a reference to the song of the same name by Tutone. Guitar Hero was available to play on the Nintendo DS and came bundled with a peripheral that you had to plug into the GBA slot. This was very weird looking, but it actually worked quite well. Knowing your Nintendo DS firmware version is a bit complicated compared to other consoles. In order to do so, you have to insert a game inside of the console, join a PictoChat room, and then remove the card from the console. Depending on what happens next, and using this chart on screen right now, well, you'll figure out the version of your system. The Nintendo DS was released in China in 2015 under the name IQDS, and it launched with 2 games, Polarium and WarioWare Touched. There were 9 official colors of Nintendo DS that were made available to purchase: Titanium, Electric Blue, Red, Black, White, Turquoise Blue, Candy Pink, Mystic Pink, and Cosmic Blue. Do you own them all? Because the Nintendo DS was super popular, it needed a lot of games to make every single user happy. About 1,800 different games were released throughout the Nintendo DS lifespan, which is quite a lot. The final game to have been released for this system was Big Hero 6 Battle in the Bay, which was released on October 28, 2014. The DS has introduced gaming to a very large casual market, who had no interest in gaming prior to that. It also established touchscreens as the more efficient and standard control method for smartphones. Basically, it primed the entire world for the iPhone, which was released in 2007 and completely changed the way we would use phones from now on. The Nintendo DS sold 154 million copies, making it the best-selling handheld game console of all time. Surprisingly, it wasn't the best-selling console of all time, because one console actually beat it: Sony's PlayStation 2. Thanks a lot for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, I hope you learned something, and if you want to see more useless facts, well, tap the cards on screen right now, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!